News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk, KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
An accused murderer has been returned to Missoula to face his alleged crimes. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Thursday, October the 23rd, 2014. Right now, we have a cloudy sky in western Montana, very pleasant 48 degrees in Missoula right now. Our newscast sponsored by Dig It Excavating. They bring 30 years of excavation excellence to every job. Call 214-4292. This morning's top story, accused killer Kevin Leno has been returned to Missoula to face charges of deliberate homicide and the death of a transient whose body was recovered from the Clark Fork River back in August. Public Information Officer with the Missoula County Sheriff's Office, Paige Pavallone, says Leno was transported back to Missoula from Shreveport, Louisiana, where he was apprehended after fleeing from Missoula.
About 2 weeks ago, he was extradited. He was removed, and he has just arrived in the Missoula County Sheriff's Office today. He'll be remanded into our custody, and then he'll be arraigned in video justice court tomorrow afternoon at approximately 2:30.
That appearance will be today, by the way. Leno fought extradition, and a governor's warrant was obtained to force his return. Pavallone says Leno had left Shreveport last Sunday, that it took over a week to transport him back to Missoula.
Some of these transports and extraditions are done by a contractor, so they may have picked him up and then had to go to different facilities to pick up other inmates that need to go to various locations. Hence, they're sitting in a van for quite a long time, or whatever the mode of transportation is, until they eventually come back to Montana.
Leno is facing charges of deliberate homicide and the death of 32-year-old Gilbert Berry. He allegedly carved gang symbols into Berry's skin, urinated on him, and then shot him in the head under the Reserve Street Bridge. He then allegedly dumped Berry's body into the Clark Fork River, where it was found several days later by a fisherman. A Colorado man has pleaded guilty to the 2012 murder of a Montana teacher in an oil boom town where residents say their lives were forever altered by the crime. Montana District Judge Richard Simonton on Wednesday accepted the guilty plea from Michael Keith Spell on account of deliberate homicide. A charge of attempted kidnapping was dropped under a plea agreement. Prosecutors are recommending a 100-year sentence. They want Spell to serve his time in prison. Missoula police warning the public about a phone scam from an individual claiming to be from the police department who is demanding money in order to settle a criminal charge. Public Information Officer Travis Welsh says the individual on the phone has some kind of foreign accent.
Those calls center around an alleged crime or warrant that is in existence for the call recipient, and the caller is attempting to get the recipient to pay a so-called fine or to contact by phone a certain officer here at the police department named Sebastian Brown.
There is no officer named Sebastian Brown on the police force. Welsh is asking for the public's assistance in finding out more about this individual by listening closely to the scam call should you receive one.
About the accent itself, any background noises they might hear, anything specific about the tone of voice or voice inflection, a name if it's given, and if they have caller ID that shows something other than the Missoula Police Department, anything like that, origin of that call.
Welsh says anyone who receives such a call should contact the police department at 552-6300. A nonpartisan race for Montana's Supreme Court's taking on a distinctly partisan edge. Challenger Lawrence Van Dyke is trying to cast Justice Mike Wheat as a liberal activist judge. Van Dyke's Republican backers are pouring tens of thousands of dollars into ads that support that message. Wheat and his supporters, in turn, have taken to the airwaves with their own ads in the type of election that's often an afterthought on the ballot. With less than 12 days to go till the election, Montana Secretary of State Linda McCullough has been spending a lot of time keeping track of the absentee ballots that continue to pour in.
As of this morning, we have 670,893 registered Montana voters, sent out over 234,000 ballots, and we've received over 98,000 absentee ballots have come back to the county. So that's really good.
Recently, some Colorado activists were caught on film admitting that they would consider voting on a ballot that had been found in the trash. McCullough says even if such a scheme were to take place in Montana, she says it wouldn't get very far.
Because every voter has a signature on file, and every single ballot that comes in is compared against the signature on file on the registration form. So it would be caught. In fact, even if your signature changes, let's say you signed the ballot like 30 or 40 years ago and your signature has changed, they will ask you to come in and sign it again.
McCullough says the number of voters this year appears to be on par with the turnout in 2010, another midterm election. A new Paragon Insights poll of 668 likely Montana voters shows a plurality of opposition to proposed new EPA regulations on carbon emissions from power plants. While 39% supported the regulations, 49% opposed. Count on Coal spokesman Charles Deneau said the results are not surprising.
Mostly unpopular out there, a strong opposition to the regulations, and primarily people are concerned about loss of jobs and the reliability of our energy supply. People are worried about brownouts, blackouts, and losing consistent, reliable power.
Deneau says these findings match up well with the findings of other studies.
Last week we saw a study put out by an independent group that tried to forecast electricity prices, how they would be affected if the rule goes into effect. And Montana is one of the hardest hit states. We can expect electricity prices to go up as much as 20% in Montana if this rule goes forward.
Those are in favor of the regulation cited reduced greenhouse gas emissions, improved green technology, and solidarity with other countries in fighting global climate change. A 43-year-old Missoula man who tried to make his girlfriend cut a tattoo of his name off her chest and then beat her unconscious has been given a deferred sentence, even though the judge said he doesn't think he can remain law-abiding for 3 years. The Missoulian reports District Judge Dusty Deshaw sentenced Joe Rene Gallegos on Tuesday, giving him credit for 86 days he spent in jail since his arrest in late July. Gallegos pleaded guilty to felony partner assault and assault with a weapon. Police in Helena say an 8-year-old boy was struck by a vehicle at a crosswalk and the driver was cited for failure to yield. Lieutenant Corey Keltner said the boy was upset and crying when emergency responders arrived and he was taken to the hospital. His condition was not immediately known. And a Great Falls police dog has been euthanized after unprovoked attacks on 3 officers. Police Chief Dave Bowen says the canine dog named Shep was removed from duty recently after biting his new handler. Shep was then returned to his original handler's home but continued to show aggressive behavior toward the handler and his family. Bowen says Shep bit his handler on Friday and then bit another officer. There are no immediate plans to replace the dog. The department already has 2 other canine units. News Talk time now, 6:10.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Hope you enjoyed yesterday because the rain is back in the Missoula Valley today. Light to moderate showers are expected throughout the day at a high of only around 56 degrees. I'm meteorologist Matt Gray for KECI 13, your first alert station.